Welcome to Alternative Investments Chat,
where we demystify the world of alternative investments and financing for entrepreneurs and investors alike.
With these discussions, we hope you're more empowered to unlock opportunities in your business or portfolio. I'm Erin.
And I'm Erica. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Alternative Investments Chats. Today, we're discussing luxury and offbeat vacation rentals.
Ooh.
And why they're gaining popularity as an alternative asset.
Looks like I got to pack my bags.
Give me one too.
Okay, perfect. Let's leave. Yes.
Bye.
Yeah, bye. We got better places to be.
Exactly.
So this is obviously pretty exciting. Everybody loves a vacation, and it also can be potentially really lucrative for your investment portfolio. It can involve acquiring and managing properties in unique, high-demand locations that cater to travelers who are looking for that exclusive experience. So what exactly makes a exotic vacation rental? Tell me.
So exotic vacation rentals are short-term properties located in unique, remote, or highly desirable destinations, offering travelers distinctive and often luxurious experiences. So these rentals go beyond standard accommodations, providing an immersive stay in extraordinary settings such as overwater bungalows,
Ooh, yes, my dream.
private islands, yes,
Yep.
please, jungle tree houses,
Cool.
ice hotels, desert retreats, or cave homes. That's just to name a few of those bad boys. There's other ones out there. So several platforms specialize in listing these exotic vacation homes. But let's just break down a few of those.
Yeah, absolutely. So we all know about Airbnb. What about Airbnb Lux?
Ooh, fancy.
Yes, very fancy. So this features high-end, professionally vetted properties. So not just, the run-of-the-mill Airbnb home that you can just list up on the regular site.
Yeah.
And this includes those private islands, villas, and luxury estates. So high dollar, high luxury properties.
Not your cheapy apartment in downtown LA or something.
Sure,
like
like you can stay in my bedroom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not really that. We're talking grand scale here.
I love it.
They also offer concierge services as well and premium amenities, as you might imagine.
Yeah.
There's also Plum Guide, which might be a little bit lesser known name. They curate high quality homes that pass, again, that strict vetting process. So we're making sure that people just can't list their house or their property randomly. We have to
say this is luxury.
Exactly. We have to make sure that it actually is. And this features luxury properties in premium destinations all around the world, which is pretty cool. For our ultra high net worth travelers, private concierge services and invitation only platforms like Villas of Distinction or LVH, luxury vacation homes, they offer those bespoke stays in some of the world's most exclusive properties. So these are like, the Instagram trips that you're seeing some people be on. You're like, where is that?
Yeah.
This is kind of what is going on there.
Awesome.
So we know what platforms to browse for these properties, but what are the best types of properties to book?
Yeah. So obviously it fully depends on what you're looking for, where you're going, what kind of experience you want to have. But as I was doing my research, I found that these ones tend to be the popular kids.
Okay.
So we've got overwater bungalows. So you're looking at the Maldives, Bora Bora, Fiji, those kinds of places where there's water.
This is my top pick.
This one's your top pick?
That's my top
pick. And so we'll go there with you, and then I'll just, no, I'm just kidding. So these are high rental prices due to exclusivity, there we go, and limited supply. Again, because these are like little huts over waterways, over beautiful oceans, and so there's not very many of them, so they can kind of jack up the price. But people pay it because I know that, like, for example, my family stayed in one, and there's a beautiful hole in the ground, which sounds funny, but like looks at the ocean, and you can see all the fish swimming underneath.
Yeah.
It's stunning.
Yeah, it's a unique experience.
Very much so. So this one is probably not what I want to do, but there are tree houses. So we're talking Costa Rica, Thailand, and Bali.
Cool.
So these unique experiences attract eco-tourists and adventure-seeking people.
Yeah, want to be one with nature.
Yeah, exactly. I don't like nature. I don't want to stay in a tree house. I like electricity. I like running water. And I don't care for bugs and trees and things of that nature.
So we'll go somewhere else.
So this one's off our limit.
Okay.
But it made me laugh because I never really thought that you could rent out a tree house. So I actually found one. The Treehouse at Bluebird Hill in Tennessee actually brings in over $100,000 a year in bookings, despite it being just a single unit. So like,
impressive.
There is some cash here to be made just on a single little treehouse. I live in an apartment, so I can't go build a treehouse and say rent it out as a luxury one.
Yeah.
Not yet. So ice hotels and igloos. So I would be down with this one. Because this is, I know, since I hate being cold and I'm always cold, I mean, maybe I should just embrace it. So we're talking Fenway, Norway, Canada.
Cool.
So these are seasonal demands for travelers seeking like the Northern Lights experience.
Right.
See, I think I would be cool sitting out in an igloo watching the cool Northern Lights. I think I could get down. Now, my dream one is the desert retreats because, I am a lizard. And so I like being really nice. So we're talking Dubai, Morocco, and Joshua Tree. So they have high appeal for luxury travelers seeking seclusion and adventure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Listeners, please don't judge me. I think I accidentally watched an episode of like a Real Housewives. That's very true. That's not my forte, but I accidentally stumbled on some trash television.
Yep.
And they were one where they had rented this beautiful rental property. I think it was in Joshua Tree, and it was like in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. There's beautiful houses out there. There's actually a company that has some properties in Tucson and some properties in Joshua Tree, and I think it's called like the J House or something.
I think that's where,
but it's beautiful.
Yeah, huge, stunning, in the middle of the desert, just walking around. See, I could get down on that.
Cool.
That would be really, really cool.
Good place to go and like meditate, I think.
Yeah.
So definitely want to go to the overwater bungalows, and I guess I'll try the rest of them out. Why not? I guess I'll go. But what about the investor, right? We're not all the travelers. So what about the investor? Why would someone potentially want to invest in these types of vacation rentals?
Good question.
So you already mentioned there's potential for high returns on this investment. You can get some passive income coming in. Luxury travelers are willing to pay that premium for that unique and luxury experience. And short-term rental rates in exclusive destinations can be significantly higher than those long-term rentals. Yeah. And as we learned from a episode a little while ago, we were talking about property. If you have like a hotel, you can hike up the rate at any time that you want. If it's high season, you can charge a higher amount.
Exactly.
So that you can generate some more income. So definitely some ways to get some money there. Yep. Also, diversification. We know this with every investment type, right? So the exotic vacation rentals can help diversify your portfolio beyond the traditional real estate or stock market investments, which is pretty cool. And demand is often driven by global tourism trends, which reduces the correlation with local economic downturns, especially too if you own a property that's in a different place than you live, or you have the benefit of having that property not be affected by the same conditions where you currently are located. Yeah. So that's cool. Also, there is capital appreciation. Properties in those sought-after exotic locations often appreciate due to their limited supply and high demand, right?
Yeah, makes complete sense. If you bought a house and it's in this most desirable area, of course you can probably get a little extra money when you go to sell it. Yeah,
or take care of it, or if you do renovations on it or whatever, right? Also, there's personal use. This is possibly the favorite perk for me. Yeah. Investors can potentially enjoy that property while they're still earning that rental income, which is pretty cool. So you get to enjoy your investment yourself.
Yeah, you want to go stay in your treehouse?
Not you.
Fiji? Wherever. Yeah, you have the option to not rent it out to travelers and go stay there and have a nice little vacation yourself. Pretty cool. So another thing that's really cool about this asset class is that you can also maximize returns by doing a few additional things. So most of the time when you have a investment in an alternative asset class, you just have to, you invest and it just kind of chills. But this one you can actually do a little bit to make it go up in value, which I think is cool. So you could do marketing and branding. So you can offer high-end amenities like private chefs, spa services and adventure tours. When they rent the house, I have a relatively large family. We rented a house in St. Martin, and there was like 18 of us, and it's easier to just have a chef. So we had a chef come in, and they weren't there for all 3 meals, but my mom planned it. So she would let all of us kids know, all right, breakfast will be provided by the chef, and then we'll have dinner at the house tonight too. It was so awesome because we didn't have to worry about going to the grocery store. You're in an island that's a little bit different. You don't have to worry about trying to find restaurants, especially for 18 people. Yeah. Or, if you have the grandkids who like one doesn't want to go.
Sure.
It was nice to kind of just like felt like you were eating in your own home in your pajamas with your family, and you didn't have to do the cooking or the cleaning. So that was really, really awesome.
Very nice.
And they really marketed it that way as well. And we actually had, funnily enough, we had spa services come too. I remember getting a massage and a facial, and we didn't have to leave the house. It was really, really fun. So I feel like
on the next family vacation.
Sure, why not?
Okay, cool. I'll talk to you.
You can be my plus one. But you can create a strong brand presence on platforms like Airbnb Lux,
right,
VRBO, or direct booking websites. So if you offer these, a lot of times, think about when you travel, you don't want to plan everything out. You want kind of somebody to say, hey, while you're here, you should do this. Mm-hmm. And if someone already has it planned out for you, I will pay a little bit extra for that.
Yeah, the tips from the locals, that's what you want.
Yes, exactly. You also have smart pricing strategies, which you kind of touched on about changing the prices. So you can use dynamic pricing tools to adjust rates based on demand. Again, if this is a tropical destination, maybe in the summer it's a little bit more expensive. Mm-hmm. Or in the summer, or if it's, a tropical destination and it's in the winter, it's cooler, you can actually offer discounts for longer stays to boost that occupancy. Right. So you have that flexibility with this asset class. Also, again, something that I think a lot of us live on, social media and influencer marketing.
Right.
So you should partner with travel influencers to showcase the property. Yeah, so leverage Instagram, TikTok, YouTube for organic reach. Again, some of the places that I've seen, I saw want to go visit, I saw on TikTok.
Right.
Or on Instagram. Totally. And I'm like, save that, send to the friend, hey, when can we go? Like, this restaurant looks cool.
Yeah.
So that's really fun. And then you can do loyalty and repeat guests, provide exclusive benefits for returning guests, or build a database of high net worth travelers for direct marketing.
Right.
Hey, Erin, I know you and your family come to Dubai every summer.
I wish.
I know.
Yeah, maybe.
One day. Hey, I wanted to say, extend this offer to you first. Mm-hmm. So you kind of feel like you've got a relationship with the person who owns the property. And you're like, oh, they actually called me and reached out to me. Maybe we should go again.
Yeah, that can entice you to definitely go again for sure. Well, those seem like great strategies to help boost returns. Let's think about some key considerations, some things that you should think about maybe before going all in on an investment like this, right? So number one, market demand and occupancy rates. You should understand what the tourist trends in that region are. If it's not a tourist hotspot or a place where people come, maybe you don't want to invest a bunch of money into this one property. And that's not to say that something can't become popular, but that also would take a lot more time, money, and effort.
What it reminds me of is on Mean Girls when Gretchen keeps trying to make fetch happen.
Yeah.
And she's like, stop trying to make fetch happen.
Exactly.
That's what happens. What I think about when somebody buys a house that's not in a high tourist demand area and they're really trying to make fetch happen. Right. It's like, stop trying to make fetch happen.
Yeah. I like that. And you should also just know your market, right? Yeah. Before any sort of investment that you're doing, or if you're owning a business, you should understand your market. Yeah. And also consider the seasonal variations in the peak demand periods. You should probably understand the weather and how that impacts tourism patterns. So those are all things that we should know. Additionally, regulations and legal issues. Mm-hmm. So some locations have strict short-term rental laws. New York City had a huge problem with Airbnb recently. They started instituting some really strict laws there. Yep. So understand those things. You should know your zoning laws, environmental regulations, and licensing requirements that need to be checked before you jump into an investment like this.
You don't want a tenant staying there or a short-term tenant, and then all of a sudden a police officer or shows up and they're like, excuse me, you can't be here. It's like, well, wait, I've already paid.
Right.
If you don't know the zoning and the licensing. Like it could be a really big hassle for not only yourself but anyone who wants to rent your property. And then all of a sudden your Airbnb, what is it for the your little profile, the little score goes down.
Exactly.
Like, got kicked out because
right.
host didn't know what the hell they were doing.
Well, I was worried. We were in Palm Springs just this last weekend, and Palm Springs now has a really, or has for a couple of years, a very, very strict noise ordinance. You can imagine for rental properties, we were told we cannot play any sort of music outside, period. Didn't matter.
And you still went?
We still went. Well, we didn't know until after we booked it. And it was fine. You know, we like figured out like how to like handle it and stuff. If we wanted to play music, we shut all the doors in the house and whatever. But, you know, like that's the kind of thing that might impede guests from visiting. So we should know our laws, right?
Exactly.
I did have a great time in Palm Springs, though. So
that's all that matters.
It didn't hinder me too bad. Also, maintenance and management. We should think about this. Exotic rentals require specialized upkeep. If we're thinking about those overwater bungalows, you need to consider marine maintenance because you're literally in the ocean. So think about that.
Those tree houses and those woodpeckers, you got to get rid of those bad boys.
Yeah. Just you know, if it's exotic and if it's unique, it's going to require unique maintenance. And also, you might want to consider hiring a local property manager, somebody who's there consistently and who can take care of the property. You don't want to just let it potentially fall into disrepair, right? Also, access and infrastructure. Remote properties may lack the basic infrastructure, electricity, sometimes even water, sometimes roads. Some of these properties might require like a Jeep, a specialized vehicle to get you there. So these are things you should think about. And also accessibility. It may affect those occupancy rates. If we're thinking about a tree house, you know, most tree houses don't have an elevator, right? So that's going to limit the kinds of people that can actually come to that property. So these are things that you should think about.
What about those resorts where you have to hike in, where you like park on an access road and hike in? Again, won't catch me there. But
there are some people that love that.
Yeah, they love that. They park their Jeep, they backpack in, and that's exactly what they want. But what happens if there's a storm or, you know, these are things that people don't really think about, especially when you're traveling.
Sure.
If you're on vacation mode, all you're thinking about is what time is appropriate to have a cocktail.
Sure.
And the answer is anytime when you're in vacation mode. But I don't want to have to hike all the way out.
Yeah.
If something was to happen in the middle of the night.
Sure.
So those are great things to think about.
Different profiles for, you know, different travelers. Yeah. So you should think about it. Also currency and economic risks.
Yeah.
This is obviously talking more about places that are located outside of the United States, but exchange rate fluctuations can impact your profits. And also local economic instability can affect tourism demand. If people are feeling like an area is unsafe, if there's something that's going on there or, you know, whatever. The news influences travel.
Yes.
You know, I think a lot about Mexico. We're very close to Mexico and I love going to Mexico. There are still people who I know who will not go because they are very nervous about what's in the news. And, you know, I'm not saying that what's in the news, you know, isn't true or whatever, but I'm just saying that those sorts of perceptions can definitely affect travel. Also, financing challenges.
Yeah.
Traditional mortgages may not be available for these unique properties because they are considered non-standard. Not always the case, but definitely something to be aware of.
Yeah.
And private lenders or cash purchases may be required in order for you to actually get the property. So something just to note.
Yeah, a few other things and risks and downsides, maybe just to kind of worth mentioning. Again, we touched on a few of them, but just to go a little bit more in depth. So there's the high initial investment and operating costs.
Yeah.
So again, these exotic properties have higher purchase prices and ongoing expenses. Like again, back to like if you have to hike in, you have to maintain the trail and make sure everything looks good. Or if, like you said, I don't think you can get a mortgage on a treehouse or an igloo. I don't know. Maybe you can. And if you can, that's awesome. But most of the time you have to pay for these properties up front. So you have to spend that money first before you're actually making it.
Right.
And again, we talked about that seasonal demand fluctuations. So many locations experience extreme seasonality impacting cash flow. Again, if you are in the islands and it's hurricane season, a lot of people aren't going to come visit you. So knowing those trends, but that is a big thing, a risk and a downside to think about.
Yep.
And that just leads into the natural disasters and the climate change. So
yes,
coastal properties are vulnerable to hurricanes and rising sea levels. Where I know in, I know on the coast of California, some houses are just falling into the ocean.
I don't know anything about that.
And I know some of the houses in Nantucket also, because we looked at property there and
because the sea level is rising.
And they're gone. Houses are just disappearing into the ocean. So what if that was your rental property?
Right. There it goes.
Yeah. So, and then you have the flip side. Desert locations may face extreme heat challenges.
Yeah.
Us living here in the Valley of the Sun, where it gets 120 degrees on a regular basis in the summer, some people can't handle that. And if you're stuck out at a really beautiful property out in Joshua Tree,
and your air conditioner,
and the air conditioner doesn't go, it could be very dangerous.
Yeah.
And be very, very expensive for a repairman to get out there.
Yep.
And then we talked about this as well, but regulatory crackdowns, government may introduce new restrictions on short-term rentals. You'd mentioned it that New York, I know like Hawaii.
Yes, Hawaii too.
There are some cities in California, Montecito, for example. The reason I lived in a guest house in Montecito when I lived there, and the reason is that they had it as an Airbnb and they weren't allowed to rent it as an Airbnb, so they took me on as a tenant, which was fabulous for me.
Yeah.
So I got a really cool place, but yeah, they were used to getting that cash flow, and now all of a sudden it's gone.
Right.
So you got to think about those kinds of things.
Yeah, you definitely need to consider those things. Investing in exotic vacation rentals can be capital intensive.
Yes,
we know
very
this.
much so.
But several funding and ownership models might help mitigate the risks that we just talked about and help maximize the returns.
Yes.
So here are two of the most common approaches. Or the most common approaches. Traditional ownership. This is like buying the property.
Outright,
You're in charge of managing it. You're supplying the capital to purchase it. And you also, that requires the higher upfront capital, as we know, because you have to have all the money.
Yep.
But it also offers you full control of your operations, branding, and pricing, and also obviously the profits. If you're the sole owner, you're the one that gets to
You get all the money.
the profits. Joint venture, not just for businesses, but also for exotic vacation rentals.
There we go.
Investors typically have that 50-50 equity split, or you could have a silent partner. This is someone who never talks. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I want that.
Right. This is someone who invests the capital, but the other person actually manages the property. Yeah. This is great for sharing the risk, but there is also potential for disputes, right? If people don't get along or agree. And profit sharing may not always be fair, depending. It's like a group project, right? Where you have one person who did absolutely nothing, but for the sake of the grade, you all, you did all the work, and guess what? They still got an A. So that could happen here, but with money.
Yep.
There's also syndication groups and REI crowdfunding, real estate investment crowdfunding. This can happen through platforms like Fundrise or Realty Mogul. They can provide exposure to high-end vacation rentals without active involvement, and this can reduce the risk and the management obligations of the actual property.
Yeah, you just give them some money, they take care of it, and then you get some of the returns. You give them a little fee, everyone's happy, and on your merry way you go, right?
Yep.
So just like we've talked about in all the other alternative asset classes, there's always fractional ownership. So you don't have to own a whole piece. That's very much true in the exotic rental space as well. So multiple owners or buyers, I guess, split ownership, making it a lower buy-in. However, conflicting schedules can be an issue when it comes to using the property. So we talked about one of the upsides of having these rental properties is that you can use them for yourself. But if me and you both have, we own the property, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to go in June, and you're like, nah, I was going to go in June.
Right.
And
Then
you're
we're
like,
going to fight.
But exactly. Or we just go together and we have a dance off.
Yeah.
That's the real way to do it. But that is an issue. You have to think about it, especially think if you have 8 owners, quote unquote, of a property. Like everyone wants to use it, or they might want to say, hey, I've already rented it out those days because I need some extra cash flow.
Right.
But just like everywhere else, there are some popular platforms that specialize in fractional ownership. So there's Pacaso, which offers shares in luxury second homes across the US and Europe. Cool. And they are fully managed. So they have cleaning crews, maintenance crews, same thing. So hands off, you don't have to really do much. Then this one always cracks me up because it's coconut, but it's spelled Kokonut. At first I was like, what the heck is that?
Coconut.
Coconut. So this is a fractional ownership with rental income potential. Now this is something that doesn't always happen, and we'll talk about it just in a few seconds, but like, just because you have a rental property doesn't mean you're getting that cash flow always. And again, there are so many other platforms out there, but I want to encourage our listeners to decide what their investment goals are first.
Absolutely.
And then find the platform that fits their model.
Yes, absolutely, for sure. And, every investment is different, and not every investment works for every investor.
You're absolutely correct.
So last thing that we need to consider if we're talking from the investor perspective are exit strategies.
Get me out of here.
Exactly. Exiting an investment in a exotic vacation rental space requires careful planning, and liquidity can be more challenging. We know, right? Because you own a physical property. It can be more challenging because it's a physical property, but it can also be more challenging because it's not traditional real estate.
Correct.
It's not a normal house, right? So here are a few common exit strategies. One, resale on the open market. This would just be, listing it like a normal home. This is great because if the market has appreciated, you have the potential to see really high returns, but it could take a really long time, 6 to 24 months
maybe
for the property to even be, or maybe never, right? To be sold, especially if it's located in a remote market. And also, if you think about the longer that a property sits on the market, typically the less in value it's perceived to be because people are like, well, what's wrong with it?
Exactly.
So just keep that in mind. If you are in a situation where you have fractional shares, you could sell those fractional shares. This is faster than having to sell the entire property, obviously, but co-owners may make this difficult. They may not like that you're trying to sell your shares. They may want to know who's buying the shares and approve said person who's buying the shares. So investors could end up selling at a discount if demand is low as well, because if nobody wants it, right, then you're not going to be able to get as much money for it. Another thing you can do, like you mentioned, convert to that long-term rental. If market has slowed, demand has slowed, investors could take on those yearly leases to still generate income. It just won't be as much as, short-term rentals would be. This allows investors to continue to have that passive income, and you can wait out, hopefully, for a better market. Maybe you can even wait out for a better market for you to sell. It just might give you an opportunity to kind of collect your things and come up with a better strategy.
Come up with a better plan, but still get a little bit of money.
Yep.
And then again, if an investor is looking for a little tax relief when it comes to selling these properties, we have a few options, and we've talked about them in a different episode. And we probably will dive into them a little bit more, hopefully in future episodes as well. But you can trade for another property, so a 1031 exchange. We briefly chatted about that in a different episode with our guest, but maybe we can get him back and chat a little bit more. So investors can defer capital gains by reinvesting in a like-kind property. It's not as easy as that sounds, but it kind of can be.
But it's an option.
It's an option. Or you can do a donation or inheritance. So investors can transfer ownership to their heirs, or they can donate it for those tax benefits.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So this brings us to the end of our episode here.
Our vacation
has ended. Our time as travel agents
Don't worry,
has
I bought
ended.
everybody souvenirs.
Oh, thank God. My souvenirs are my takeaways here.
Yeah.
So we know now that exotic vacation rentals can offer an exciting alternative investment opportunity with that high income potential, which is what we like out of investments, and potential lifestyle benefits, right? However, investors always need to consider the risks that come with this asset specifically. Whether it has to do with the location, management challenges, and regulatory hurdles that can ensure that profitability. And if those things aren't in check, could actually cost you a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, a well-researched strategy focusing on high-demand locations, luxury experiences, and effective marketing can make an exotic vacation rental a highly rewarding investment. Again, that research. The global travel boom continues to push demand for these luxury and unique stays. So again, do your homework on regulations and seasonal cash flow.
Yep, absolutely. Well, thank you for tuning in. We hope that maybe this has inspired you to book a new trip.
Yeah.
And go on a little vacation yourself.
Yep.
Maybe even figure out if investing in exotic rental properties is for you.
There we go. So think beyond that normal property. There's money in Treehouses, people. Hopefully we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned for more insight on our next episode.
And don't forget to subscribe to continue the alternative investments chat.
See you next time.
Content provided in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as professional, financial, or investment advice. This podcast should not be construed as an offer to sell or a solicitation of any offer to buy any securities. We strongly recommend that you seek advice from a qualified professional before making any financial decisions.